science class, and it's like she's got a mimeograph, if I can, drag that term up, because I think it actually was, sheet from her school with like the parts of a cell, and it's like, God, how can you like science, Dad? It's so boring. And it's like, I just wanted to scream. It's like, you can't teach kids like that anymore.
Right.
It's just that rote memorization just kills any kind of curiosity. So, and I've had enough experience with you can drag up some slimy thing from the deep and show it to kids and tell them 10 things about it, and they're hooked. Their natural curiosity, they'll start filling in blanks and imagining things, and it's just like, it's so easy to do to get kids enthusiastic. They're natural scientists. They all want to learn, and they want to figure things out, and they want to see the connections between things, and the way we've been doing it is just not going to work anymore. So the whole idea is to stop these weird divisions between art and science, and everyone sees the world, in different ways, and it's important to value each of those ways and make sure we're not just teaching science like they have been for 30 years, which is just mind-numbing.
There's a Ricketts quote, maybe this was Steinbeck. All things are one thing, and that one thing is all things. And I think that again, the combining of art and science, or learning and activity, or curiosity and exploration, it's all connected. And within the setting of 4 walls, a roof, and a floor, and a door, school steps outside of it. I mean, I guess it doesn't, because it's still some of the all things and part of the all things that make it one. But isolating the educational experience out seems to be archaic, if nothing else. So you're building a platform on a almost 100-year-old boat that is going to carry new scientists, kids, out into the ocean to continue to do what Steinbeck and Ricketts were doing, again, close to 100 years ago. Was it 38 when they went? 1938 was that?
It was 1940.
Okay.
They went down there, but you're right. It's just the boat's going to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. We're going to it's going to look like an 80-year-old vessel, but it's going to have a state-of-the-art, ROV on it that can go down to full ocean depth and do high definition camera work. And, we got a bunch of instruments on it that we're going to monitor, all sorts of things. And we're also setting a series of data loggers out, which a total of 60 of them, which will be placed all up and down the coast from Baja to Sitka, Alaska, which will record all the temperature and salinity and all the normal things, but also pH, which has been kind of the holy grail for long-term monitoring. It's been hard to make a pH meter that would work underwater for any length of time, because they biofoul and they have to be calibrated. And so now finally there's some good ones out there. So we're going to, the flyer's going to deploy and recover those. And it will also, it will have the ability, because we're going to go to these smaller communities all up and down the coast, that we're going to go basically north one year and south the next year. So, well,
that begs the question here real fast, though. And I think, again, I read somewhere here that originally, and I'm hoping that the plan still stands, is the maiden voyage going to be a repeat of the Steinbeck Ricketts trip? Are you going to do that? Are you going to get to be on the boat for that? Is that part of the plan?
No, I don't quite make the cut. I've had some of the best authors and scientists in the world asked to go on that voyage, and I'm not. We're going to put a shadow vessel that I think we're talking to the uncruise guys now, which will hold, I don't know, 70 or 80 people, and us slackers will be on that boat, but some really eminent biologists and authors and scientists and will be on the flyer itself.
So the fact I'm raising my hand right now, that is going to very much go unnoticed, I'm sure.
You're probably on the boat with me, pal.
Yeah. I'll be happy to be on the shoreline somewhere in Baja watching you guys go by, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
So is that Man, what a cool thing to be able to do. And I got to assume there's still some family of Steinbeck around, correct?
Very, very few.
Really?
His son, Tom, died just last year. Ed Ricketts' son, Ed Jr., just died the beginning of this year. And so Ed Ricketts still has a daughter that's up in Sitka, Alaska, but they're all getting pretty old. So there's some scattered nieces and nephews, but not many of the original crowd left.
Huh. Well, that's a shame. Will there be anybody? I mean, hopefully, I guess there's no way to know for sure, especially as the discovery of the amount of work required to get it back in seaworthy condition is still ongoing. I was reading something or saw a video about so much of the time frame is connected to the drying of the wood that you're using to repair areas, and sometimes that wood has to be dried for months and or years. Is that correct?
Yeah, sourcing the wood has been very difficult because I made this silly rule that I wanted it to be sort of sustainably harvested, so it wasn't coming out of old growth forests,
sure,
or anything, and that ended up being a learning experience too. So we ended up with wood that was the wood for the planking is called sapele, which is like an African teak. And the reason I chose that is because we have to put weight back into the boat. And one of the best ways, because the boat would hold 70 tons of fish, and
right.
Kids are getting bigger, but they're not that big. So we had to add, some weight. So the teak is very dense and will last very long, very strong. But I wanted,
and that weight is for the ballast, right?
The ballast is the kind of the weight and balance of the boat. So it was cut in the Congo, and it went up to Germany to make sure that it was, it fell naturally and didn't get cut, and then it went to France to get milled, and then it came here. So the carbon footprint of my sustainably harvested wood is pretty abysmal. So you learn these things kind of too late, but
A for effort.
Yeah. Well, So yeah, and the oak came from. The oak was interesting. It had to be 150 years old oak because you need 18-foot long lengths, and everything in the U.S. that the oak is grown mainly for wine barrels and whiskey barrels, so they do everything in 4-foot units. So it was difficult to find 18-foot clear oak. So we found this college in Kentucky, Berea College, it was a land grant, after the Civil War. They set it up, and so it had some really old wood in their forest, and they're really conscientious about harvesting it. They use horses to harvest the wood because the horses' feet don't compact the soil and damage the roots of the surrounding trees as much as tractors. So it was pretty cool to see all that happen. So it's I've learned a lot.
I was going to say, we're talking about the whole education process and creating this platform for kids to learn from, and it sounds as if unless you were already really immersed in all this, there's been quite a lot of learning going on for you as well.
Oh, every day, yeah. There's some new thing that I'm learning about. Some of it good, some of it bad, but it's all interesting.
And so when it's complete, home will be in Monterey?
Yeah, the city's given us permanent berth space there on their Coast Guard dock, so it'll be there. We'll bring teachers in every year to teach them how to teach this sort of merge of art and science. There's a program being developed for that, and so when it goes to a port, say it goes to Tillamook, and it pulls in, there'll be an advanced team that's already gone there and dealt with some teachers that have knowledge of how to teach the different units that we want to teach, and there'll be some issue of local concern, maybe their eelgrass depletion, or maybe a bunch of derelict fishing gear or something. They'll have a local concern, and so we want to address the local concerns. We also are providing these little ROVs to like the robotics club at the school, and we'll put those up there 3 or 4 months before we go up there, so I'll have a chance to put those together and then help them learn to operate them, and then the schools will get to keep those. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing. The boat's basically just an ambassador for those things.
With the story behind it, yep.
Yeah.
Well, what a great initiative. The connection to Baja obviously is there, at least for the one trip. Are you, with this maiden voyage, I'm assuming you'll be reaching out to people connected to the peninsula in some capacity, whether it be government or private, but to kind of to corral the interest at that level as well?
Absolutely. We've already started that, actually. We made a trip this winter down to Santa Rosalia, and there's some educational people down there that we're working with and developing a trip. So every other year we'll go down there and spend a couple of months doing, different projects. There's some areas along Baja north of Santa Rosalia that there's no roads there, and
yep.
There's never been a proper biologic transect done along that 70 miles. So, we want to do that. So, we're putting together.
I know guys
program.
that are trying to make a motorcycle route through there, but it's not done. I mean, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, that's some pretty rugged ground up there.
Yeah.
We've gone by Panga up there, and it's amazing country, but it hasn't been well explored or well documented.
Yeah.
And
so, John, are you a lover of Baja as well?
Yeah, I've gone down there many times. I used to go down there and camp and fish, and just had a lot of fun down there. Different places. Took kids down there when they were young. And
I have a little side business. It's called the Baja Map. We take a old map of the peninsula, printed on canvas, and then it's more like a scroll. It's 60 inches long, and I do a Facebook and an Instagram page for that little business, and I love the fact that I can open Steinbeck's book and pull quotes out of it to then put next to pictures that I use to promote this map on my Instagram account. And it's, that we must go back, but we don't know why type of a quote.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
so many of them. I've got one written here. It's advisable to look from the tide pools of Baja to the stars, and then back to the tide pools again. And that's, there's pieces before and after that. But he was definitely moved by the peninsula, as was, I'm assuming, Ricketts. And I'm curious, do you know, was this 4,000 miles in 6 weeks? I'm hoping that wasn't his only journey into Baja. Did he spend more time there?
He did. They went down there several times on collecting trips by road, so they couldn't get to the places that they wanted to, but they did some traveling down there prior. They never made it back afterwards. They were planning a trip to the same kind of trip, collecting trip and document trip, what they called the outer shores, which is basically along the inside passage of north of Washington State,
right,
up into southeast Alaska. So Ricketts was killed by a train in Monterey, and they never made the trip. So.
Yeah, I read that too. What a sad story that is.
Yeah.
And was that? I mean, not that it really matters, but was it just an error on his part, or was there any other story behind that?
Yeah, there's like everything. There's a lot of mystery around
Sure.
it. Some people said he was committed suicide because of another failed relationship he was in, and other people said no, he was going to get steaks, and he had people at his house he was cooking for. His old Dodge just died on the railroad tracks, and the Del Monte Express just ran into him. So I've talked to people that were around. There was a doctor that just died last year that was a friend of his at the time, and he told me that it was nonsense that he committed suicide. Other people said that they were sure that it was. So, whatever.
Well, it sure is interesting when you think about. I just last night or 2 nights ago went and saw the Elton John movie, and then not too long ago I saw the Bohemian Rhapsody, and I'll say that I'm not a huge crazy fan of either two of those musicians or bands. I certainly enjoy their music, but it was interesting to see the story, realize, we're all human beings. We all got our struggles, and clearly Elton John and Freddie Mercury had their struggles.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how when we follow our passions recklessly,